Good morning, Namaste, Ram Ram, Sitaram, Jai Shri Ram, and Bula to everyone. So I just did a presentation in Hindi, and now I'll do a presentation in English on the 75th anniversary of Vunivau Primary School, known also as Vunivau Sanatan Dharam Primary School. When it was first established in 1948, it was known as Vunivau Sanatan Dharam Pathshala. So the school has organized an event for Friday, which is tomorrow, and Saturday, and they will be celebrating the 75th anniversary of the school. The Vunivau Primary School, or Sanatan Dharam Primary School, is located about 20 minutes from Nambowalu, heading towards Dreketi. I visited Vunivau in May 2023 and was fortunate to meet some of the elders. While I had gone for the purpose of doing some research on the Girmityas who actually settled in the greater Nambowalu or Wainunu area. And after a while, the discussion centered on the establishment of the Vunivau Sanatan Dharam Pathshala. I was very fortunate to meet one of the community elders and one of the renowned Indian elder in the Vunivau area, Mr. Jag Narayan and his family members, and other members of the Vunivau Indian community. So briefly, as many would know, that this area has not got any real economy. People still survive today by planting some rice. They have few goats, and at times they sell in the market or at Nambowalu or in Lambasa market. Some of them raise few sheep. They do subsistence vegetable farming. Some of them keep cows for milk, their own milk consumption. But if you take yourself back to 1948, 3 years after World War II, the area would have been much underdeveloped, and the people survived mostly on subsistence farming. They grew rice, as I was told by the elders, and then they used to take and pile it nearby on the close to the shoreline. And then they also told me at times 50% of the crops became too wet and got rotted before Benz Phillip was able to cart it away on a little ship to Walu Bay and Suba. And many at times the farmers did not receive any payment or very little payment. So how was the school built? For some of the youngsters who are in that school today, they would not have a clue how the school was built. And talking to people, in Hindi they call narkul, in English they call reeds. It's a family of grass called poki, also known as Pragmatis australasis, and it is used for thatching and construction of houses. So in some countries, reeds was used to build houses many years ago. So what the elders told me, and Mr. Jag Narayan, who is an elder of the community, that they used to split the reeds stems and make flooring out of reeds, and also as rafters so that they could thatch on top. And they used to cut bamboos and split the bamboos and make bamboo walls and even bamboo floors. That's how our great-grandfathers, great-grandmothers, grandfathers, and grandmothers sacrificed their time and effort in building primary schools in Fiji. And a classic example, which I thought I would mention today, is that of Vunivau Sanatan Dharam Primary School. Now let's go back. Imagine you were running a household in 1948 with 5 sons and 3 daughters and your parents to look after. And about 5 weeks back, I posed 2 questions. What did the Girmityas eat when they had nothing or virtually nothing at home? So when I visited Vunivau in May, and after a while it was time for lunch, and because I had my son with me, and he had a Australian friend with him who could not eat hot food, so they made lunch without any chilies. And one of the elders asked me, Pravind, do you eat hot food? And I said, yes. And they said, can you wait for 5 minutes? And came out what we may call chutney of, in Hindi we call jangli dhania or jangli coriander with green chili, onion and garlic. It was grinded on the stone using a flat stone and an oval stone, and you grind it with your hands. And they made chutney out of it. And I can tell you that chutney tasted unbelievable. It was one of the most tastiest chutney I ever ate in my life. So Mr. Jag Narayan quietly told me, he said, Pravind, this is how the Girmityas survived. That's what they ate for dinner when they had nothing else to eat. And the other one, which I had posed in my last presentation, what was the second thing? And I said, don't mention satwa, don't mention bari. Bari was made when they had surplus of bora, of bean, and they dried it. And then they made bari and they ate either with bari curry and roti or with rice. The other, you can say, it's not a dish, it's like a savory which they ate. And probably no one has made that in Fiji, probably more than 50 years ago now, or maybe even 70 years ago. So if you go back many years ago, so if you go back to the 40s or the 50s or 60s, many Indian families planted maize or corn in Fiji. Nearly every farming household had a cow or 2 cows or 3 cows for milk. And they used to make maize or corn flour at home. And they had surplus milk. So if you want to, you can try it at home. You can boil milk at the very low heat or the minimum heat. And then you slowly pour maize or corn flour very slowly in very small quantities, and you keep on stirring the milk and the maize flour. And then you'll come to a point where it will commence to solidify slowly, and you take the pot out, turn off the stove, and then let it solidify. and then you cut it into small pieces, in cubes. So maize or corn is very healthy and nutritious. So is maize or corn flour. And milk, home organic milk, already is very strong and healthy. And that's what our grandfathers and grandmothers and great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers survived. They had nothing else in their life. No luxury. So the 75th anniversary, I would like some people to mention to those students from class 1 to class 8, under what circumstances did our grandparents and the great-grandparents build the primary school? They lived in sheer poverty. If they wanted to, they would have not built any school in Fiji. So those students who went to Vunivau Primary School from class 1 to 8, probably now live in Suva. Many of them would have migrated to New Zealand, or Australia, or United States, or Canada, or living in UK, or working in the Middle East somewhere. You should remember this weekend and tomorrow that you would not have achieved your education if your grandparents and your great-grandparents had not sacrificed in building the primary schools and the primary school in Vunivau. They could have decided not to build any primary school in Fiji. The people of Vunivau lived in sheer poverty. They could have said, why or what is the purpose of building a primary school? But they did. So that is what the sacrifices the Girmityas and the first generation of Girmityas did in terms of building primary schools. So who are some of the descendants of Girmityas who live in the greater Wainunu and greater Namboalu area today? That presentation I will do later on, maybe in the next 3-4 weeks. So some of the people who are going to view this program, the first Girmityas or the first Fiji Indians to settle in Vanua Levu was on David Whippy's estate or farm in Wainunu. And the area there includes places such as Daria, Nandi, Kasavu, and Solevu. And then the Girmityas ventured into the other areas to settle. That is the history of the Girmityas. So for the committee and the organizers for tomorrow, which is Friday and Saturday, I wish you all the very best for the 75th anniversary of Vunivau Sanatan Dharam Primary School. And while I am here, there is also a function close by at my house in Brisbane. And I also will be praying that the Almighty has taken care of those great-grandparents and grandparents who sacrificed so much in building the Vunivau Sanatan Dharam Primary School or the Vunivau Sanatan Dharam Pathshala. And while I am doing this presentation, one of the lessons I learned when I visited Vunivau, and I had only was able to liaise with the elder, Mr. Jag Narayan, on a Wednesday afternoon, and I was at his residence on Monday morning. I'd never met or spoken to the people of Vunivau ever in my life. The hospitality and the respect and the love and the welcome that the people gave to me and my wife and my son and my son's friend was that as if we had known each other for the whole of my life. One thing I learned, these people are very ordinary people who don't have any luxury in life. One thing I learned on that day was the respect and the love they showed me that day and the relationship they built during the 3 to 4 hours of talking to each other showed what the Girmityas were like when they went to Fiji. That the bond they formed with each other, and when they formed a relationship by calling someone a brother or sister, that's what united them. And the biggest thing that played a role that they survived the hardship was Hinduism. In western side, we say Ram Ram, and someone will reply Sitaram. In that whole Nambawalu corridor in Vunivau, the people reply or they welcome Jai Shri Ram. Jai means victory, or Jai means honor the good deeds, and Ram is the Lord. So when you put it in simple terms, if you are going to have Ram on your side and your faith in Ram and your belief in Ram, then you will pass all the obstacles. And that's what made the Girmityas survive. During the conversation, I made a comment to the elder Jag Narayan, and I said, how did the people survive here? There's not much even here today. And imagine way back in early 1900, the dense forest. And he said, son Pravind, to survive in this whole area is very, very difficult. For many, they will not survive here. They will not last here even for 12 months. But they survived. The Girmityas and their generation survived with very little. They built schools. They educated their children. Somehow or the other, they sent their children to Lambasa for high school. They sacrificed one way or the other for them to get tertiary education. And then people migrated. So that's in very brief. And I thought I should mention, because even if you go to Vunivau and some of those areas today, to survive there is very difficult because there is no economy as such. There is no cash economy. So all my viewers, I still have 2 other projects happening. One will be to produce a 1.5 to 2 hour documentary movie in both Hindi and English on the first Girmityas who landed in Vanua Levu, and that will be from David Whippy State and how they then escaped the farm and settled into the other areas of the greater Nambawalu area. It will be produced both in Hindi and English, and also some of the projects that I am intending to do on Rambi Island. So in conclusion, I would like to wish all the very best to the people of Vunivau and the Indian community and the Ramayan Mandali, the school committee, and wish you all the very best for the 75th anniversary of Vunivau Sanatan Dharam Primary School. Once again, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Jai Shri Ram, Namaste, Walaikum Salam, and Bula Vinaka. This is Pravind Kumar from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. Bye for now.